Hi everyone, welcome to this long-awaited After Effects to Nuke comparison. I happen to have a pretty complex shot done in both of them, so I can do a pretty decent comparison. Because I've done it 2 times, once I've done it for our sci-fi project Something for Nothing, which is now on YouTube, you can watch it. It's a draft English dub to show to, English producers, but this is not like the kind of English translation you will see for movies, but definitely will help you to understand everything what's happening. And the second time I've done it for FX PhD course. And for those who want to follow along, the link to the project files, as always, is in the description below. So by subscribing to my Patreon, you are getting access to the project files of all the videos I've done for this channel. Thank you so much for your support. So I will do a comparison in depth, and for those who want, a conclusion right away, I will put a timestamp with it at the end of the video when I will say my clear and honest opinion, because I want to explain my opinion before throwing it at you, and I think I will do it great with this one shot done in both softwares. And if you disagree with me in some details, you always can write a comment below. I really appreciate to have as much opinions as possible. Thank you. So let's start with After Effects, I guess. I have a matte painting projection here. Source denoised with the same reduced noise effect we use in Nuke. And then I have matte painting projection put on over everything. So basically I don't need the source denoise here at all. I can turn it off because I have it duplicated here. It lies here just in case I will need to duplicate it somewhere. So there's my foreground source masked. This is the source denoise layer with masks and keys of foreground, which is obscuring my background. Let's go inside of matte painting projection and see what's in here. So you see I have a basic After Effects projection set up here with the light shining through the composition of my matte painting, projecting it to these solids. If I go into 3D view, you can see how it looks like here. So this is where the funny stuff begins in After Effects, because you start ripping your hair off only on the stage when you are making a projection. So the projection in After Effects is pretty limited, because the 3D space is very limited. You can use only solids. This is why some guys developed like a plugin. Let's see it. Here we go, projection 3D. This is how it is called. Oh, so here we go. This the plugin I was talking about. For 63 bucks, you are getting the plugin that builds geometry out of solids. Understand what I'm talking about? You can import low poly geometry inside of it, and it builds the polygons out of solids. When they are triangles, it masks it with masks automatically. So I have tried it, and I can say that when you are importing reduced models from your 3D package like you do in Nuke for, projection on the proxy geometry, it doesn't work, because you are very limited in the amounts of your polygons, otherwise your machine will explode. So this is a big pain in the ass, that's why this plugin is useful. And this is big minus to After Effects, because in Nuke you basically can throw almost anything 3D inside of it. I remember me throwing into it like millions of polygons, and it was working. But for projection you have to have something simple. The more simple the geometry is, the better the projection will work in Nuke or in any compositing software. Oh, let's see what I have here. Here we go. I've just imported thousands of polygons into Nuke. Now you see this stuff is reduced. The buildings are boxes because they can be boxes, as it is not needed to have more polygons on the walls. But you see these letters and stuff is imported pretty smoothly. So if I use it instead of my previous projection. Let's maybe merge it here like that. It still will work. Let's try to render it. Yeah, it works. Absolutely works. The reason why we have some issues here is because there's another box here that should be removed from this geometry, but it definitely works. Not as smoothly as with the Nuke's original geometry I've remade here, just to make it work faster, you know, with cubes without anything that is unneeded. But it totally works. You see, all these balconies and stairways are in place. Really great for projection, actually. We are also getting some issues here. Obviously, this is all fixable. The other pain in the ass you will encounter in any software when making a projection is matching it with camera. You'll have to have like a straight pipeline of exporting and importing camera. In Nuke, it is a pain, but it is manageable to create your own pipeline, which will work smoothly. So, because it can import the FBX and Alembic files containing cameras. This means that you can directly, without any third-party plugins, import the camera into Nuke. So in After Effects there's like third-party plugins that import camera with the different position of the plugin that does the projection. And there is also some really old ways of exporting and importing the camera working in After Effects, like with RPF sequence. So you render this dinosaur file and you bake in some passes, and if you bake in the Z-depth pass, it will also bake in the position of the camera, because this is like the way it stores Z-depth. So I have a box and a sphere here, and if I'll render this sequence into the RPF file, then I'll go to After Effects, import it here, select it, then I'll go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, and then I have this option of RPF camera import, and it will import the 3D camera for me. So this is one of the ways of importing the camera for you without third-party plugins. Because the true reason behind the projection is not to, you know, show your friends how you perfectly repeated the Andrew Kramer's tutorial, but it is to render static things on a compositing stage instead of rendering their sequence out of 3D. This means that you will have to have your camera out of 3D package imported in the same scene as your geometry. This is the whole reason why you want to import the projection and camera inside of compositing software instead of, you know, retracking things inside and remaking the solids inside of it according to the point cloud. This is the reason why you want to import this stuff from 3D with the same position according to each other, not with different plugins that uses different, you know, world scales and origins, so that the geometry and camera won't match at all, not to remake it again inside of the compositing software. You have to have a clear pipeline for this. And maybe some After Effects nerds have it, but even if this is so, I don't believe that their pipeline is cleaner than in Nuke, where without third-party plugins you just connect the projection node, import the camera geometry, and do the projection. Well, of course you can remake the boxes inside of Nuke, but this was just the best way I found back then to reduce the poly count, so I guess this can be considered as the lack of work on the pipeline. If you really like my videos, please stop for a moment and share it with friends you know who will also like them, because I'm just starting out and I really want to be known in CG community as I have a lot to say. Thank you so much. This really will be a huge help. So the next thing in Nuke, you see everything at once. You know exactly what you want to do because you see every connection, every backdrop, of course, if you named them and created them, and if your nodes aren't a big mess, you can understand where things are. You can copy and paste it to another script. In After Effects, this is different. Let's go inside of the pre-comp of the pre-comp of the pre-comp of the matte painting. We have a lot of layers here, and this is just the passes that are laid out at the Nuke here like that. Well, there's more of them here than it is actually needed, I give you that, but you see how easier it is in Nuke to see all of them. And in After Effects, this is actually not all the passes that we see in Nuke. In Nuke, they are separated to different lights here to control their, intensity. But in After Effects, we don't have the separation onto lights because this would be even a bigger mess. You'll have to have at least, 3 screens to work in it to see all the layers of all the comps of the main comp and pre-comp, and then see the composition window. Then you maybe will manage to, with third eye, see all the stuff you need at once. Otherwise, you will always have to go inside of your pre-comp. And I imagine you working on a laptop. I was working on a laptop for 3 years after all this madness. It was like, taking the big iron shackles from your hands when you have a couple of screens with a normal computer. When you are working on CG, if you have laptop, just find second monitor for you. So much easier to work. Please do this right after watching this video and subscribing to my Patreon. One of the best things you can do for your career in computer graphics if you haven't done it yet. After Effects does not suck at everything, and actually his minuses sometimes can be pluses for one-man band generalists. One of the great things the After Effects has is the dynamic linking with Premiere Pro, so you can quickly import everything from your native editing software to do a quick and easy cleanups or corrections when you don't have much of an effect. This will be easier than rendering out of Nuke and importing here in Premiere, because I guess you won't use Nuke Studio for editing, you will use Premiere as it is more suitable for it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is handling of alpha. So I have some posters here that I've rendered out of 3D. I've mapped these posters on solids and then distorted them and done some, tearing of them here with material of tiered paper. And I've outputted them here with alpha, because I wanted the original background included into their render so that their edges will contain a native, colors of the scene to be nicely blended with my composite, but I actually eroded them anyways here. Well, if you import the same posters into After Effects, let's take a path from here. Here we go. Posters. The first thing you'll notice is that your alpha is already pre-multiplied. And this is not okay, even if you want to pre-multiply it right away, because color correction comes before pre-multiplication. This is the whole reason why your edges will look bad as you color correct after pre-multiplying them with alpha. If you maybe import something like stock footage from my stock footage pack, it's also on my Patreon actually, and you'll see that it is pre-multiplied again. And this is bad because the actual background here is useful. You don't want to lose it. If you ignore the alpha, you will have it, but you don't have now the alpha channel in the footage. But as I've shown you in how to make the stock footage pack tutorial, you can, duplicate this file, duplicate it again, put it on top, and set the alpha for the second file to straight, and then you will have it pre-multiplied, and then you can control RGB and alpha by using 2 files with the alpha matte like that. Maybe it's linking one to another, then you have position linked and stuff. So this is inconvenient. This is not the way the compositor should handle alpha. The alpha should be a separate channel on which you can bake in the alpha and pre-multi it if you wanted to, because sometimes you need the RGB that is outside of the alpha region, usually for proper pre-multiplication you need for, merging stuff with your background. This is the reason you'll have to do a setups of separating the alpha from, the RGB channels. So the posters are done here in this nice backdrop with scanline render nodes put on cards, because it is very easy to, you know, put them in 3D scene and just render them with everything else. There are near posters and farther posters here and there, and in After Effects I believe I've tracked them. Let's go inside of the main comp to see where they are. You see how long it takes to just find them. It's already getting crazy. Here we go. Real near posters. I found them quickly because I remember where they are. But imagine you don't know where they are and how long it will take for you to find them. This will be a pain in the ass. This will definitely be a pain in the ass. Let's see how they are tracked here. Alright, they are not tracked in 2D. They are a 3D object placed there in the right position, right where this wall is, according to the tracking markers. And this is how they are tracked, because there's a camera here which is tracked in After Effects. After Effects have a pretty great camera solver, I should say. Sometimes it works better than Nuke camera solver with default setting. But I guess the reason for this is the lack of experience in configuring the Nuke's camera tracker, because far more complex, it has lens distortion, everything the professional, you know, tracking artist will need, more or less is here. While in After Effects there is only one button, which is called, you know, track camera. Hit that, and well, you get some settings, alright. I have the scene type, like the main setting for the camera tracker, but I don't have like lens distortion here or stuff. I have to do this before the track. Can specify the angle of view. Well, this is handy. We can't import target tracks into it. The Nuke has like target tracks. You can track something manually if the camera tracker can track it automatically, and it will dramatically improve your solve in some crazy situations when you can track with auto tracks. So, but as I said, camera tracker in After Effects is great. So I guess After Effects is more, you know, for the guys who don't want to dig into their tools too much. They just want to quickly make something simple. It's one of easiest way to explain why the After Effects could be needed for compositors. Alright, I think that I'm getting too complex here, because I can speak like for very long time about, you know, missing tools in After Effects. Like lens distortion, for example. I mean the actual compositing lens distortion, which you do with image analysis or grid analysis and line analysis. Speaking about lens distortion, I've just uploaded, I guess, way to do it perfectly in After Effects without the actual tools. You don't have tools in After Effects to do this. I mean, the way I'm showing you there, you can actually do a precise enough for production quality lens distortion using the standard optics compensation effect. You want to install as less third-party tools into your software as possible and your machine, because as you are starting to get crowded with third-party tools, you see, I don't have anything here. I sometimes have something to open, you know, the project files of other people, but I usually don't use anything besides the neat video reduce noise effect. This is like the only thing, or maybe the Cryptomat and reduce noise are the only things I need in After Effects and Nuke. I don't need anything besides them. Everything else I am trying to do inside the software. This will work a lot faster and be less buggy. Especially when you start having like more machines rendering your shots. This will become a great pain in the ass to install all these tools to all of them. One of the greatest unmentioned things in which After Effects does not suck is when you have compositing with motion design. This will be a far more easier to do everything inside one software, because usually the compositing for infographics is not so complicated, and when you do it with infographics in one project, this should be faster than making it in Nuke. You start thinking about camera tracking, you start thinking about lens distortion, you start thinking about other tools that are missing. Looks like this is an infinite loop, so I will just break down my shots. everything that I did not cover yet, how they are done in Nuke and how they are done in After Effects, and then we will jump into conclusion of my thoughts. So I've already covered the matte painting and the key. I will be brief because you don't watch my videos so long, you've already turned it off and clicked on some clickbaiting thumbnail suggested by YouTube, triggering your dopamine receptors. If you do so, I suggest you go straight to Pornhub. This will be maximum dopamine, zero experience. So I've put in some smoke here as a layer, alright, some shadows for the posters, the color correction for the posters done by, plussing and multiplying the blurred footage on them. This time it is just added. Let's see if it is blurred. It isn't blurred at all this time. Very interesting. Works nice, actually. Yeah, you just take the footage and then you use the color correction effect to get the contrast of it, which you need to, add or multiply on stuff. Then you color correct it, this time lowering the saturation. Usually you have to do this, and then you apply it on top of your comp. Same thing with multiply. So multiplies, the shadows of the footage on top of stuff you're comping. It doesn't work on some, contrasty backgrounds. It works on stuff like walls where there's like a very constant color, or you can just blur the background and do the same things, but then your shadows and lightings won't be so detailed. Then I've got some heating of the trash cans here. So I've got multiple layers of them. Heating of the trash cans in Nuke is a bit more bulky actually than in After Effects. A lot of nodes here because I was struggling in making it realistic, because that's why there's like so much nodes here, so much, channels and layers here in Nuke. In After Effects it was done a little bit more simple way, that's why it looks less realistic here, and I guess it is clipped. Yeah, not good. Then we got more trash cans heat, so a clean plate of ground here, also projected, so it has the same projection setup, but it has only the ground copied here, and it has the light and the clean plate here, and removes this part of the frame. In Nuke it is done. Yeah, in Nuke cleanup I have already pre-comped here because some cleanup artists already did it for me. Then we have some effects reflections, finally some effects done by Oleg Zvagintsov, comped by me and him. Some heat distortions before I put the pre-comped lighting effects and stuff, and grain on the very top. So in the lightings pre-comp, this is just Houdini renderers, basically the same way they are done in Nuke, added on top, and the pre-comp is added also on top here. So this is the way they are stacked here, and all the elements are done like that. In Nuke we have a separate script with all of them here. By watching the script you can see that this script is done by another artist, and this script is done by Oleg Zvagintsov. Great effects artist, great artist in general, does some really amazing stuff. His website will be in the description. So he done this all in Houdini and comped it in Nuke here, on top of my pre-comps that I've prepared for us. So let's go a little bit layer by layer here, see exactly what is what. So that's how beautiful the reflections are. Great work. And on compositing you see there's only a blur node and color correction nodes. This is more than enough for Oleg. He doesn't need any more nodes. I guess I'm running out of memory here. Yeah, so the spots where the lighting hits, all constrained in Houdini to appear in the right time. Oleg calls it goes. This is actually just a point cloud made out of the scan of the agent that we've done. It is just a static frame in Nuke, which I guess it is static frame. No, it is not. It actually has some particles animations inside of it in 3D, so it is distorted on 3D stage. Very clever. Then the different versions of lightings are merged here together on a compositing stage because the director didn't accept the lightings for the longest time. Then we have some footages of sparks, just tracked with tracker to the places where the lighting hit. And we have some smoke layouted in Houdini. This was easier to do in Houdini for Alec. Yeah, I guess every artist has its own way of doing things, because I definitely won't lay out the smoke in 3D. I will use Z-depth for this, I guess. Yeah, of course, it gives him an advantage. The smoke can interact with lighting of everything that is lighting the scene. I guess this is the whole point of making it in 3D. This is some small, alpha dot rendered there with 3D wiggle, and then it is being eroded a lot and glowed a lot, and it becomes like the spot from where the lightings are born. And I guess it is not used here. This means that we have something else replacing it. Yeah, we have just a Nuke setup of it with transform geo nodes, one of which has wiggle expressions here, and this is how it is done. So just the same way is done in Nuke in 3D. You see how powerful Nuke is comparing to After Effects, where the only 3D objects you can use are solids and nulls, right? Unless you install some crazy plugin to it. And speaking of plugins, with Element 3D and the Video Copilot plugin, you can do projection in After Effects. Not yet. I guess Andrew Kramer thinks about it. You can put a sphere, you can wiggle it in 3D, and here you go, a wiggling sphere. Rendered quickly, works perfectly. Don't need so much polygons for it. And then just glow and motion blur for it, works perfectly. Alright. More passes of the splashes of lightings. They disintegrate to particles when they disappear, and this is what Alec has done. Very great work, actually. That's all. This is how this shot was done from start to finish. It was a lot of work in 3D. Now in Composite they are all just plus together here. All with plus operations. Plus operations are the same as add operations in After Effects, so it doesn't matter if you plus or add. This is the same, plus sign operation. Amazing work done. All this interaction with ground sometimes doesn't match quite well. I think it matches well, but the thing is wrong that they are kind of bouncing the same way as from the asphalt, but from the backs they shouldn't bounce so much. They should fade there more than bounce. That's why it looks strange there, but overall amazing job, Alec Zvegentsov. And now the conclusion. The After Effects is more for one-man band generalists who doesn't do bulky compositing, who usually needs to quickly correct something, quickly enhance something, or do some simple effects, like in Andrew Kramer's tutorials, in their own project. The Nuke is more for production work in a big studio, for people to concentrate on compositing, on their part of the job. And I know them both pretty perfectly. I've done FX PhD courses on both these softwares, and I've worked in these softwares a lot. And I can say when you master both of them, no matter in what environment you're in, working in a big studio or working alone, you're using the right tools for the right situations. You do After Effects when you need more animation in compositing. For example, like when I had to put the live action shot bird into the aerial shot on the close-up, it was a little bit easier to do in After Effects because there were more actual animation than compositing in there. Or when I do environment compositing, like comping this crazy projection there in the 10 shots, I have to quickly copy all the nodes without copying and extending all the compositions without the pain in the ass. I do it in Nuke. So in general, in a long run, you're better off knowing both softwares to become a master. So if you are intermediate compositor or starting out, you should think about what you will use the compositing for in the long run. For compositing movies in a big studios, or for making your own movies and, your own content. Every week I now upload new videos. I've started to seriously concentrate myself doing my own stuff, so subscribe to not miss my tutorials on Nuke and After Effects and breakdowns, and my project files will be, as always, on Patreon. So to get all these cool project files, all you have to do is subscribe to my Patreon and getting access to all of them. My name is Kirill Pleshakov, and I'll see you in the next class. Instead of watching clickbaiting content like this one, next time try to get your dopamine from getting better than you were yesterday. See you next time. Goodbye.